All right, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Living Better podcast. We're with Matthew Stapley. We had an amazing part 1.
Sure did.
He is a psychic medium from Ottawa, Ontario. So if you landed on this by mistake, make sure to watch part 1 first. And we're following through this interview with the second part.
Mm-hmm.
So we left off talking about tarot cards in part 1. And I wanted to ask you, do you know where tarot cards come from? Who invented them? And if they are like a standardized tool for psychic mediums?
Sure. So standardized tool, yes, kind of. I mean, they're a very popular tool, but I don't know that I would call it standardized because everybody works so differently. I love tarot cards. I don't personally use them professionally anymore. But yeah, definitely very common. They've been around forever. I mean, the most sort of famous or well-known deck is called the Rider-Waite deck. And that's been around for I could be wrong about this, but I think it's been around since like the 1800s, maybe. Even before that, there was the Tarot de Marseille deck, which has been around for like ever. So yeah, I don't exactly know who created all the decks, other than the Rider-Waite deck was created by Waite. But yeah, there are hundreds of decks out there.
Okay, and if someone wanted to just test out his ability, or maybe try out if they can get something out of it, so where would you say to start?
I think it depends on the person. So if they've had a lot of experiences already, they could just sort of practice on someone they don't know and just see what they can get. If they want to develop their gift sort of from square one, there are tons of different development courses people can take. And the thing with that is just finding a course that feels right for you, a teacher that resonates with you. But yeah, I think there's no real right or wrong way to do it in terms of how. I think the only thing that I've seen sometimes is ethical issues with people just starting out. But as long as you're basically not a jerk,
Yeah,
I think you'll be fine.
okay.
But on Facebook, actually, there's a lot of teachers and groups that you can join to practice. I always recommend learning to read on people you've never met before. I think that's the kind of what I would call the gold standard of learning. Yeah, so the ways are endless, but there's tons of programs and courses and everything out there.
Okay, and on that note, do you think everybody has a gift, or some people have no gifts and they shouldn't even pursue that avenue?
I think everybody has a gift, always. I think that we are all connected to divinity, whether we call it God or the gods or the universe or whatever, even people who are completely atheistic and they don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
I think they're still connected. I think every cell of our body is in communication with the universe constantly. And learning psychic ability is really just learning how to tune into the conversation that's already happening between you and the universe. So, I mean, that's kind of making it sound both simple and complex at the same time. But if you can understand that everybody's connected, and development is just figuring out how to hear or feel or see or know your connection, that's all it is. So everybody can do it. I've never not been able to help someone to develop, except for one time, and that person was very afraid to be wrong.
Okay.
And when you go into developing gifts, you cannot be afraid of being right or wrong. You've got to become comfortable with both, because the reality is, as a practitioner, you will be right and wrong.
Of course. Absolutely.
So yeah, you just got to go with what you get. And when I was first starting professionally, I started young, but when I first started readings doing them in a store, I had an amazing woman who is kind of like a business mentor named Wendy James from Love Dragons, and she's amazing. And one time she asked me, she said, "Matthew, why do you keep refunding people?" And I said, "Oh, their readings are terrible." And she said, "Well, what do they say about the readings?" And I said, "Oh, well, like they cry and they say thank you and that it, helped them." And they said that it really brought them peace and hope and all these things. And she said, well, then why are you refunding them? And I said, well, the messages don't make sense to me. She said, well, they're not supposed to, Matthew, because they're none of your business. They're not going to make sense to you.
Yeah.
And so I realized at that time that some of the craziest things that come through are the things that I'm most skeptical about giving, because it just sounds so off the wall. And those tend to be the things where the person is like, oh my God, that's like totally unethical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. Yeah.
So, in regards to that, what is your biggest success story and maybe your biggest failure on that journey? So we can talk about both.
I love it. Okay. So biggest success, honestly, I can't even pick one experience. Most readings I honestly don't remember. When they're gone, like my memory is pretty much wiped with it.
Mhm.
Um, I would say there are times where I just thought it was cool. Like one time I did a group reading, and it's kind of like the hit and the miss at one time, because
Mhm.
there was this lady, and she got like 30 names of people who passed away and
Oh
all of
God.
their causes of death, and all of them were confirmed. She knew every single one of them. And then I was like, this is crazy. Like that level of specific never happens, because names and dates are hard to get. And
Of
all of
course.
it, like for like 25 or 30 loved ones came through with absolutely no message. Like there was
Wow.
literally nothing. They were saying nothing to her, just that they were there. And when I went to do the next person, evidential information like that came through, and then a lot of messages.
Mm.
And then the lady that got the 25 or 30 names looked at her and said, well, at least you got a message. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, do you not realize how rare it is to get like those many names, and all of them are right, and all of them are people that you know? And I didn't say that out loud, but I thought it in my head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I would say, I think the biggest success is just anytime somebody's helped by it. I
Mm.
there's one that's greater than another. I
Mhm.
think there are readings that happen that I think are really cool. There's one other experience where I have the permission from the person to talk about it, because I asked if I could mention it.
Mhm.
Um, and I brought through a she had an adoptive child, and I brought through that adoptive child's mother, who had
Wow.
passed on. And the mother said, yes, it was me who turned out the Christmas light. And the woman said, what do you think it means? And I said, well, I just keep seeing this white, or this LED light, and this
Mhm.
woman in spirit is saying it's bad for his brain.
Mhm.
And then the woman said, oh my God. And I said, okay, you have to tell me what that's about afterwards. And
Mhm.
she told me afterwards that they had bought their child an LED snowman, and one day it just stopped working.
Hmm.
And they couldn't figure out why, because it was brand new. But the weird part was that this child has learning disabilities with neurological problems.
Okay.
Wow.
So his mother
That's
in
crazy.
spirit made the light stop working. And of course, if you look up LED lights and neurological problems, they generally don't get along.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I thought that was very interesting example of evidential mediumship.
Of course.
Um, you know,
Absolutely.
and also not only that, but also the power of spirit. His
Mhm.
mother manifested the breaking of that light so that her son's brain could function properly. And I think
Wow.
Wow.
those kinds of things happen every day. It's
Of
pretty
course.
cool.
No, of
Mhm.
course. That's amazing.
And the biggest failure, oh man, there's just so many to talk about.
Uh,
Just kidding. Um,
But I like
I,
that. You're humble, like that's great.
yeah, of course.
well, I think it's important, because it's at the end of the day, Wendy James was right. It's none of my business. Like
Mhm.
all I can do is do the best I can.
Mhm.
When I can't help somebody, I don't charge them. I
Yes,
don't
and
want
that's
them
what
to.
you said exactly.
Yeah, I don't want them to pay me if I'm not helpful.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest failure, the biggest failure came down to my own experience of something. And there was a time where I did a reading, and I was young. I was about 19, and I did a reading, and the person, and then they turned around to everyone else and said that it was completely wrong. And I
Oh,
guess I felt like kind of embarrassed, or humiliated, or whatever.
yeah.
And I got so mad at the universe, and it was a great learning moment for me about ego,
Yeah.
and our egoic experiences when we're trying to do the best we can and it doesn't work,
Mhm.
and we feel bad about it.
Mhm.
So I ended up not doing a reading for a year. I took like a whole year, and
Wow.
and it was because I got mad at God, and I didn't like that feeling. I didn't want to be mad at the universe for something
Mhm.
that's supposed to be so positive,
Yeah.
Mhm.
even if I was wrong. And
Mhm.
so I made myself get that side of myself under control before I would go back to work. Um, and so that was kind of like a fail. I
Mhm.
mean, there are just times where we're not right. A
Of
missing person.
course.
I'm a missing persons case. One time, I led that family in a whole other direction.
Hmm.
That person, to my knowledge, has never been found anyway.
Hmm.
But I would classify that as a fail, because I wasn't able to find that person for them.
Mhm.
Um, of all kinds of things like that. that happen. And like any profession, we're not always right.
Of course.
And
Absolutely.
I think what we do with it is what matters. So even
I
though we
agree.
might get like a fail moment
Yeah.
bringing information through, I think what we do with that within ourselves, but also how we approach that person, I think that's what matters. And so what I try to do if I can't read somebody is, go through my roster of people that I know that are really good. And sometimes I'll tell that person, tell me what you're looking for. I won't tell anybody what kind of reading and information do you want, because I know my colleagues and I know what they're good at bringing through and what is not their specialty. And so I will take that person's information and I will say, go see this person because that's exactly what they do. And, I never tell anybody, if I'm giving a referral, I never tell people why I'm referring them. I just refer them. And
Okay.
yeah, that's basically it. So.
And why would you think or say that sometimes you're wrong? Is it just your interpretation of your reading of what you're getting through your head and the spirits and whatnot, or is it just could it be just another spirit that's trying to use that period when you're more open to throw some stuff that's not even related to the person there?
Yeah.
I think it can be all of those things.
Okay.
I mean, for example, with prediction-based readings where we're looking at how something's going to turn out, there's something called the desire field. And remember in part 1, we talked about these layers of the aura and the layers of the body. And so there is part of our energy field that has to do with hopes and fears. And for example, when somebody's really anxious, I can see that energy lit up around them. And it's that same hopes and fears energy. And some people have that so strongly. And I'm actually one of them. So I can talk from personal experience. When I was single and I wanted to meet somebody so bad, I went to every psychic in town and all of them were like, yes, it's next week. Yes, it's coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
And these are very good readers. I mean, people that have predicted things on the dot, but because I wanted it so badly to be next week or yesterday or whatever, that's all they were seeing was what I was projecting.
Oh, so it was your own fault. It
Yeah.
wasn't what they see really. They were seeing you.
Yes.
They were seeing me. They were seeing what I was hoping for so badly. And there wasn't a way for them to tell the difference. And that's not their fault. These are very good colleagues of mine who blow my mind with their work on a regular basis. So it's not them. So that's one thing. Other times I think it's just not meant to be. And when I can feel that I'm what I call chasing a reading, which is where I'm and I'm getting little bits of information, but it's not really leading to a flow of information. I stop the reading and I'm like, hey, I can't read for you because I'm getting bits and pieces of things that really probably mean absolutely nothing. I call it psychic static, tuning a TV. And
yes. Yeah.
So that would be, another reason. Other times we're just not meant to. I mean, there are times where I've gone to get readings about something important and literally the psychic or the medium will say, you're just not meant to know. Because there's nothing coming through here other than to say to trust your experience and that you have to learn some things as you go through this. So you can't get an answer until you've done the learning. So I think there's a multitude of reasons. And then, of course, other times we're just wrong. We just, for whatever reason, the energetic relationship between the medium and the client just isn't working out.
It isn't working.
Yeah. And multitude of reasons.
Yes, of course. That makes sense.
That's fair enough. Thanks.
I love this question, by the way. I really want to say that because I've done well over 100 featured interviews in my life in all different forms of media. I've had 2 TV series in the past and nobody's ever asked me about the fails. And it's actually probably one of the coolest questions I've ever been asked in any interview. People always want to talk about the amazing side of it. But I like this because I think it's important for people to get a very real grasp of this.
Of course.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's beautiful. Great question.
It is. Yeah,
thank you so much. Well, that's what we're trying to bring, honest, truthful, down to earth ways to help people.
Yeah.
No bullshit, no shenanigans.
No, I really love it. I can concretely say I don't think anyone in any of an interview in the last 10 years has ever asked that question, and it's got me excited to talk about about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I had another one. I wanted to know your personal understanding of the afterlife.
Yes.
So
do we reincarnate Like, is that true?
Where does our spirit go when we die? And, do the people that come through your reading just stay on the other side, or at some point they come back to another life? Do we have multiple lives?
Yes.
I think that's an awesome question. I have no idea. Well, I know some things. For example, when people pass away at the exact moment of their physical passing, and sometimes even before, they're immediately in heaven. There's no waiting around. There's no getting stuck. There's no nothing. Everyone's immediately at peace with a full and complete understanding of their life on earth. What happens after that? I honestly don't know. I've thought of it a million ways. Do I believe in reincarnation? Yes. Do I believe in eternal, happy, joyful, peaceful life hereafter? Yes. How can I believe in both at the same time? Honestly, I have no friggin' clue. No idea.
That's a question that confuses me, like myself too, like in regards to my dad, is he going to come back to Earth for another journey of learning?
Somebody completely different, or an animal, or something like that? Or,
he's going to stay there forever.
Or is he staying there?
Or maybe it's somehow both. Like maybe our loved ones wait until we're all there before they come back. Maybe maybe that's the thing. Maybe they do come back as animals, or maybe we have other lives. Maybe we're having all multiple lives in this moment in different dimensions. Like,
so true.
I don't know.
Yeah, never thought about that.
I love the question. I wish I could answer it. I think what I will say that I really truly believe, based on every reading I've ever done, is that people are always at peace. Your loved ones are always with you. Nobody's ever angry. No one's ever in pain. Nobody's lost. Nobody's stuck between worlds. We don't have to cross people over. I know people talk about that.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like, who the hell are we to cross people over? They're already non-physical. I think there's non-physical beings who can help them better than we can. But Spirit has always said everyone's at peace instantly.
Like a haunted place, for instance, that's what people think a spirit is trapped into, like a physical spot. So what do you think on that?
Well, here's a cool thing. So I was a paranormal investigator for multiple paranormal teams over the years. I've been a consulting medium. They usually call me when things get really weird and they have no idea what's happening. I was generally interested in the really strange physical phenomena. So I actually wrote a book called Rescue Mediumship a million years ago. I pulled it off the market because I believe I was completely wrong. I think that I jumped the gun and I wasn't experienced enough to write that at the time. And so I got it pulled off. But basically, I think when a house is haunted, I do believe that it is energy. And I believe that there's a difference between entities and human spirits. So entities are beings that could just be from other dimensions. They could be from lower fields of consciousness or even higher fields of consciousness, but they weren't necessarily human spirits. And I believe that many hauntings are a result of that. The other thing is something called residual fragmented energy. That's what I call it. And that's when somebody has a traumatic experience and part of their energy field happen. For example, that doesn't include passing, but for example, if someone got in a car accident and then every time they went past that place, they had a panic attack, that is an example of that fragmentation. And in psychology, that would be PTSD. But at an energetic level, it's a piece of that person's energy breaking off and then kind of it's frozen in time. It's frozen in that moment of trauma. When someone passes away traumatically, part of the residual energy of their passing can stay frozen in time within the space it happened. And so when someone's being crossed over or you're sending somebody to the light, what you're really doing is sending that fragment back to the light. You're sending that residual energy to the light. And the moment I realized that that's what was happening, I was doing an investigation and I did a crossing over. It was a very, very haunted house. I mean, it freaked me out to be in there.
Wow. Okay.
Out very easily. And so what happened was I saw the spirit going toward what I thought was the spirit going towards the light. And then I saw the same person come out of the light and hug itself and disappear. And I was like, what
happened there?
What was that? So I decided every investigation I went to after that, I would be aware of this possibility that there was more than one thing happening. And what I noticed is every time that person's spirit came and reclaimed that fragment and brought it to the light. And so what was happening was an integration of this spirit energy. Yeah. Wow. It was very interesting.
What's your scariest experience with your gift?
Oh, man.
The one that you remember when I asked this question.
Scariest? Oh, there's a few. So I won't count the ones when I was young because I think anything at that point would have been
Of
scary.
course.
But I would say a haunted house in Quebec. That was the scariest. And we were brought there. There was a few of us on a paranormal team. The mediums are called the sensitives.
Okay.
And so the sensitive team and the technical team work sort of separately. So the technical team sets up all the cameras, all the devices. The sensitive team goes around and sees what they can feel. And then sometimes in certain teams, there's a research team who takes all of that information and tries to find out history of the property. So I went and I was in this house, and when me and the sensitives walked in the door with our notepads, we saw, we met the mother and the father that lived there, and the two kids were playing in the living room. So we did our walkthrough. We came outside and we were having a cigarette with the parents and the homeowners. And I said, oh, how old are your boys? And then the other sensitive said, yeah, are they twins? And the mother and father looked at us just shaking their head. And they said, people always think there's two. We only have one son.
Wow.
Only one kid.
Okay.
Wow.
And then they said, we're going to show you a picture. So they showed us this photo of this little boy holding his present in front of, at Christmas time, in front of an entertainment unit that had glass doors on it. And instead of the reflection behind him being the back of his head, it was him facing forward again. And so it just made my heart jump into my throat.
That's
so
kind of scary.
Yeah. So later in this investigation, they were setting up the cameras, and one of the team members got basically thrown down a hallway.
Wow.
Yeah, that was scary. And the smell of burning flesh filled the house right before that. It was a really haunted house. Another one was one near Hintonburg, and I was in this older building. And I felt like I was on fire. I literally felt like I was burning up. And I was like, what the hell is this? So it was very uncomfortable. Every room I went into, I felt like I was having a panic attack. And so we ended up helping. We were able to kind of clear that energy out. But the cool part was that we found out later that way back when there was actually a fire that ravaged that part of town and burnt everything to the ground. So I think that's probably what I was seeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another example of residual energy. There's lots of stories of physical phenomena.
Yes. And you've done so many things. I can't get over it. Good for you.
Thank you. I just like to try to help people and help people to, figure out their own lives, whether it's with their grieving or things that are happening with them. I think that we all have moments in our life where we're in pain.
Yeah.
We all have moments where we are against what we see as an insurmountable obstacle, something so terrifying that we don't know how we're going to get through it. And I think it's those moments that I like to sort of be there to try and help. And yeah,
you certainly have done that. So we just wanted to know if you could, right before, because we're getting to the end now, if you could really maybe try to have a message for somebody that maybe you will be listening to this podcast, or one of us, or whatever.
Let's try it.
Let's try. If not, it's okay. But we were wondering, as a little experiment.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Let me grab a pen and paper. So
cool.
Let's see.
And the goal for listeners of this little experiment is that if somebody can totally relate to this, please write a comment. Reach out to us,
or definitely reach out to Matthew on his Facebook page, or to get an appointment with him.
We'd like to, because that's
all right. Let's see what happens. So my intention, so I'll state what my intention is for this. So I'm going to ask that a message come through for somebody who at some point will hear this podcast.
Yes.
All right. So let's see.
Whoever it might be.
All right. I'm getting a woman coming in. She's showing with a walker. So to me, this is that she had mobility problems towards the end of her life. She's showing me June 6th is important to her. So that could be birth or death. She is talking about, she's showing me, I think it's called the Appalachian Mountains for some reason. Those are the ones I think go through like Virginia, West Virginia. She's showing me that area is important to her. She's talking about a woman who at the time of hearing this will be going through a health issue. She's writing health down through automatic writing on the paper. She says that this woman will be going through a health issue across her chest. So I feel like this could be like a cancer or something, or fear of that. She says that she will have an appointment in January. So I guess January of 2021. She's showing me the number 8. So it could be the 8th or around the 8th of January. And she says that you will be very happy with the results of this appointment after everything that you've been through. When I asked for information about the woman who's giving me this, she did show me the walker. She showed me mobility problems. She says that when she passed away, it came on very quickly. She's telling me that her lungs filled with fluid. She's telling me that she was unable to care for herself. She is talking about her little dog that I believe is with her now in spirit. And she's showing me that the month of November, so that could be when the dog passed away. And she stepped back. She's gone.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well, great.
Thank you very much for that.
So
You're welcome. There's somebody else coming in.
Go for
okay.
it.
Open the floodgate now.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
All right, I'm getting a man coming in. He's taking me to the woods or like outside of a house. Like I feel like I go out of a back door, and I don't feel like I'm totally in the middle of nowhere in the country, but I think I could be in an area where this house backed onto some trees. And I feel like he passed away there. He's showing me trees. Yeah, he passed away there. I'm getting really tight in my throat. So to me, this could be an issue in the throat area. I feel like when he passed away, he was not very old. I don't get elderly. I get like middle-aged at the most. He is showing me that he loved, loved his family very much. He's talking about having financial issues that he was afraid of at the end of his life. He is talking about having 2 boys or 2 sons. He said one of them he's a little bit concerned about. He says that this one son is still figuring out how to be on the best path, but he has some kind of an addiction issue or something like that. This gentleman's also showing me both early and late summer. So I get like June, July, and then August or September as important to him. So that could be birth and death or 2 other significant periods of time. He's in a very good place. He is talking about one of these family members, a family member who's younger than him, who's going to write a book or is writing a book at the time they hear this message. And he says that it will be very successful, but they're going to have to work for it, but it will be very successful. So that's for somebody out there. He's not talking much more about himself, to be honest. He's just giving me these messages, but he's both of these people that came through are in very good places, very much so.
That's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
No problem.
So for anybody that can relate to this, if you can write us at theliving.betterpodcast@gmail.com to tell us that this is you and you can relate to that. Or if not, you can write directly to Matthew, and your email is?
My email, so I'll give you my assistant's email, but it's appointments@matthewstapley.com. That would be the best way to get a hold of her, or get a hold of me, but it's through her.
It's through her.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that was a cool little experiment. Thank you for being willing to do that.
Oh, my pleasure. I love seeing what happens with. Also, a little boy that just came through who died very suddenly from cancer around 9 years old of leukemia. And he's wearing his Superman costume still in heaven, he tells me. And I also heard the 2 names, Andrew and Tyler. So they may be people that he knew on Earth. And he's good. He's happy.
Oh, amazing.
He is the squirrels. He is the squirrels. That's what he says. I don't know what that means, but he says he's the squirrels.
That is so cute.
That is super cute.
Wow.
So on that note, in regards to your services, because we wanted to talk about that. So who can benefit from your services, and what are all the broadband spectrum of services that you offer?
Sure. So I guess anybody who wants a reading, really. I mean, I don't think there's any one particular group that I cater to. If people want to know the future, I can help them with that. If they want to know about people who passed away, I can help them with that. I mean, I could do my best to help them with it. People who want to learn about their gifts and abilities, people who are having their own life issues. I mean, I'm pretty pretty straightforward with people. If I can't help them, I will tell them. If I really think that there's someone out there better than me to do the job, I will gladly send them in that direction always. And I also do free live readings every Monday evening on Facebook if people want to see my style or get a message or whatever. Yeah, that's basically it.
So for the people that would like to reach out to you for an in-person session, obviously, if they're around the Ottawa, Ontario area, they can come to see you personally at your house.
At the moment, I'm just doing things through video because of the COVID-19. Yes. I kind of like it. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to go back to seeing people in person or not. It sounds weird, but video. It's less stressful sometimes than having to mop my floor.
Yes, no, true.
Every day. But I haven't decided yet. But yeah, and I do readings for people literally all over the world. So not an obstacle. And they can go to my website, matthewstapley.com, and that would have information on how to get a hold of my assistant, information on how I got to do this work. And all the social media accounts and everything, the card deck and all of that is on there as well.
Okay. And what platform do you use for your interviews like this? Like, we're using Zoom today.
Yeah.
Yourself, what do you use?
I use Zoom or Skype or telephone or Ouija board. Like, just kidding. Dial 7 on the Ouija board. Just kidding.
You're silly.
I am totally silly. I have a terrible sense of humor. But basically any way that the person wants. Emails are a little tricky only because it takes a long time to type out the information. But I can do even chat if someone wanted to. That's no problem.
Perfect.
And how does that work for you doing it by distance? You don't need to be in a physical room with the person, right?
No, not at all. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm not necessarily fully tuning into that person I'm reading. I'm tuning into spirit and I'm saying, hey, spirit, what do you have for this person today? Like, what does this person need to know? And that's basically, the connection is here, not necessarily here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And whatever you're getting, I was just curious, is it always just in your mind that you see images? Like, if I try to imagine a boat right now or an elephant, I see an elephant in my mind, but I don't really see it, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's generally how it works. Yeah, it's called mind's eye. And I mean, there are definitely times where it looks to be more physical, but it's always in the mind's eye. Yeah, it's like a superimposed image sometimes. Yeah.
But when it comes to spirits, you see them physically, like they can be standing in the room or not at all?
No, it's so weird. It's like, it's almost like it's like when I see them, I know my eyes aren't seeing it, but it's like I see them in the room, even though I know it's not my eyes that are seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of that's a tough one. I guess if you were to leave your eyes open and stare at the wall and try and imagine a boat on the wall, that would be similar to probably.
I get it. Okay. And for your Facebook page, what is it? If people want to go on your Facebook page, I'm stopping on my words.
10 times fast. 10 times.
Yeah.
It's Canadian Psychic. So facebook.com/Canadian Psychic. And that's the same for Instagram and Twitter as well.
Okay, so it's not under your regular name, Matthew Stapley.
Yes, yeah. The link would be Canadian Psychic, but if you search Matthew Stapley Psychic Medium, it'll come up as that.
And to make it easier for you listeners, we'll put it all down in the description of this podcast, so you won't have to search too much. We'll get a direct link. So we have about 5 minutes left. So this is your moment. If there's anything you want to talk about, you want to share with the world, you want to share with the listeners, go for it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think if I were to give like kind of one thing for people, whether we ever get to meet or you ever come for a reading with me or anybody else, no matter what you're going through, whether it's something that, is easy, quote unquote, or really hard, you're not going through it alone. Your loved ones are there. You don't need a medium to tell your loved ones that you love them. They can hear you. Mediums are just for maybe receiving answers if you're not getting them yourself already. But just know that you're never, ever alone. I want people to know that every hardship they encounter can be useful. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this work as fervently as I am if I didn't get really pissed off one morning about my own life, truly. And to know that nothing is impossible, whatever that means for you. If it's something that you're trying to heal from, it's not impossible. If it's something that you're trying to attain, it's not impossible. and to know that every step of your journey, you are guided constantly. You don't need a medium to help you with that. You only need a medium if you get stuck.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And one last question in regards to that. You talked a bit earlier about if we ask you what brought you to wanting to help people.
Yeah, I got really angry. I did. I got really pissed off. I had a couple of years of hardship of my own that was very, very emotional and challenging. And I think I was just done with my own life. And I woke up one morning and I was angry. Like I was done with being sad. I was now pissed off. And I decided in that moment that I would take everything that happens to me in my life and make it useful for other people, because
Mhm.
I believe that if I didn't, then hardship won.
Mhm.
Like
Agree.
the
Absolutely.
shitty experience won. So if I
100%.
could take it and make it helpful for other people, then it was not in vain, and everything that I went through was for something, and that's why I help people. That's why I'm on fire to help people.
And you
Nice.
do, and thank you very much for making a difference in people's lives.
Well,
And also,
thank you guys for making a difference in people's lives. The work you're doing is very important. All
oh,
the
Thanks.
interviews and the inspiration that you're going to bring over time. I have no doubt that your podcast is going to go very well as long as you guys keep working at it. I think it will continue to expand.
oh, thank you very
And is
much,
that the spirits
Matthew.
telling you, or that's yourself?
It's hard to say because I like you guys. This is an example of that objectivity that we talked
Mhm.
about in part one.
Yeah,
It's hard to say. No, I
I'm being
believe that.
silly.
Well, hey, you're talking to the right person for silly. I think I think it's both. I think my intuition is that you guys, if you keep working at it, you will get big with it. I think so. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you
Well,
very
thank
much,
you so much
Matthew.
for allowing us your personal time. So you're
You're
doing this from
welcome.
home and during
Yeah.
COVID-19.
Yeah.
So
And my vacation week. It's my
oh, and your
vacation week.
Oh,
vacation week,
yes,
you're
even
Yeah.
awesome.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
but it's my pleasure. I absolutely loved this time with you guys. I would come back anytime you want. You asked amazing questions that honestly no one else has ever asked me, and
Wow,
that's exciting to me. I like it.
Good. We're glad.
thanks.
Yes, thank you very much.
So
Thank
for
you.
our listeners out there, Matthew Stapley, thank you so much for being on the podcast and talking about your gifts and how you can help people
Mhm.
and just getting people to have a better
Mhm.
understanding, whether they believe it or
Or
not.
not.
At least just to open their mind to other
Mhm.
possibilities in life.
Yeah,
And, that's the goal of this podcast as well. So
absolutely.
thanks a lot. We'll
Thank you
put
very
all the
Thank you
much.
links in the
guys.
description and, see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you guys very much.
All
You're
right.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.